If you live near the New Madrid Seismic Zone, you really need to know this. Now, in the past, I have posted videos concerning the fact that the Great Lakes has a horseshoe-shaped mantle plume underneath. The west end goes towards Lake Superior into Wyoming, and the east part of it goes under the New Madrid Seismic Zone. So we have magma there. Let's remember we also have 4 volcanoes in Maine. And let's remember that the eastern part of the United States should be called New Madrid Rift Zone. Rift Zone, because it's splitting. We have the St. Lawrence Seaway, we have the Mississippi River. Basically, all this that's wherever rivers are, we have fault lines. That's the first thing you learn in Geology 101. So it's splitting from continental United States. There's magma under there, as you can see right here. Now, what Michael Snyder reports. Are you ready for the day when the largest earthquake in the U.S. history rips through the center of the country like a lightning bolt? Last year, hundreds of little earthquakes rattled the New Madrid Seismic Zone, and it's just a matter of time before catastrophe strikes. In 1811, 1812, the 3 largest earthquakes in the entire history of the continental United States opened up gigantic fissures in the ground, and they were keenly felt as far away as Washington, D.C., New York City, and Boston. The next time such an earthquake occurs, it will cause incalculable damage. Unfortunately, such a quake could be coming a whole lot sooner than most people think. And we can talk about the big one earthquake when we tend to focus on San Andreas Fault in Southern California, and there's a good reason for that. Someday, an absolutely enormous earthquake will permanently alter the geography of Californian coast, but most people don't realize that the New Madrid Seismic Zone has the potential to create even larger earthquakes, and major cities such as Chicago, Memphis, St. Louis, Little Rock, and New Orleans are potentially in great danger. While not as well known for earthquakes as California or Alaska, the New Madrid Seismic Zone, NMSZ, located in southeastern Missouri, northeastern Arkansas, western Tennessee, western Kentucky, and southern Illinois, is the most active seismic area in the United States east of the Rocky Mountains. The area includes major cities such as Memphis, Tennessee, St. Louis, Missouri, Little Rock, Arkansas, and Evansville, Indiana. Every year, hundreds of small earthquakes occur in the New Madrid Seismic Zone. However, most are too small to be felt by humans and can only be detected by sensitive instruments. Thankfully, there has not been a catastrophic earthquake in that region for quite a while, but little quakes do happen all the time. When I asked Google AI about this, I was told the following. In 2024, there were over 300 measurable earthquakes in the New Madrid Seismic Zone. This area in southeastern Missouri has a history of frequent minor earthquakes and the potential for larger earthquakes in the future. Each time there is another little quake, it's a reminder of the clock that is ticking. In 1811 and 1812, the most powerful earthquakes in the history of the continental United States occurred in the New Madrid Seismic Zone. We were told that no other earthquakes in the known history of the world have lasted so long or produced so much evidence of damage as the New Madrid earthquakes. The New Madrid earthquakes were the biggest earthquakes in American history. They occurred in the central Mississippi Valley, but were felt as far away as New York City, Boston, Montreal, and Washington, D.C. President James Madison and his wife Dolly felt them in the White House. Church bells rang in Boston. From December 16, 1811 through March of 1812, there were over 2,000 earthquakes in the central Midwest and between 6,000 to 10,000 earthquakes in the Boot Hill of Missouri, where New Madrid is located near the junction of the Ohio and Mississippi rivers. In the known history of the world, no other earthquakes have lasted so long or produced so much evidence of damage as the New Madrid earthquakes. 3 of the earthquakes are on the list of America's top earthquakes. The first one on December 16, 1811, a magnitude of 8.1 on the Richter scale. The second on January 23, 1812, at 7.8 magnitude, and the third February 7, 1812, as much as 8.8 magnitude. I have a hard time wrapping my head around the immense damage that these earthquakes caused. According to the USGS, at one point, the ground shifted so violently that it temporarily forced the Mississippi River to flow backwards. In the New Madrid region, the earthquakes dramatically affected the landscape. They caused bank failures along the Mississippi River, landslides along Chickasaw Bluffs in Kentucky and Tennessee, and uplift and subsidence of large tracts of land in the Mississippi River floodplain. One such uplift related to faulting New Madrid, Missouri, temporarily forced the Mississippi River to flow backwards. In addition, the earthquakes liquefied subsurface sediment over a large area and at great distances resulted in ground fissuring and violent venting of water and sediment. One account of this phenomena stated that the Pemisco Bayou blew up for a distance of nearly 50 miles. We have never seen anything like this in our time, but eventually we will. The quakes of 1811 and 1812 also created giant crevices in the ground that ran from north to south and that were up to 5 miles long. As the general area experienced more than 2,000 earthquakes in 5 months, people discovered that most of the crevices opening up during an earthquake ran from north to south, and when the earth began moving, they would chop down trees in an east-west direction and hold on using the tree as a bridge. There were missing people who were most likely swallowed up by the earth. Some earthquake fissures were as long as 5 miles. Someday it will happen again, but I believe the next time will be a far, far worse event. If you visit the town of New Madrid today, you will find that they are very aware of why they have become so famous. The town of New Madrid seems obsessed with the fault lines that loom over its surface. Signs with the slogan, "It's our fault," F-A-U-L-T, line the road into town, past the cotton fields and defunct factories that were once reliable employers. The local businesses, the ones that still exist, are not shy about referencing earthquakes in their branding. The town's principal attraction is a museum that details the history of the 1811 earthquakes that made the bordering Mississippi River run backwards. Sadly, the next time a major quake strikes a region, most of the people stand to lose everything. Back in the year 2000, 60.2% of all residents in the area had earthquake insurance. Today, just 11.4% of all residents in the area have earthquake insurance. And just like we've seen in California, insurance companies realize what is eventually going to happen and they are protecting themselves. When disaster finally strikes, the death and destruction that we could potentially witness could be off the charts. In 1991, Missouri State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, and FEMA report estimates damages from a 7.6 magnitude New Madrid seismic zone earthquake to the Boot Hill counties of Mississippi. New Madrid and Pemisco would be 0.2 to 2% of their population being victims to it. 1 to 10% of their population seriously injured, 10% of their buildings collapsed, and 30% of their buildings receiving severe structural damage. For Scott, Stoddard, and Dunklin counties, and the percentage estimates are 0.1 to 1% killed, 0.5 to 5% seriously injured, 5% of structures collapsed, 20% with severe structural damage. For Butler, Bollinger, Cape Girardeau, Perry, St. Louis, including the city, Lincoln, Pike, Marion, and Lewis counties, the estimate are 0.02 to 0.2% killed, 0.1 to 1% seriously injured, 1% building collapse, and 10% with severe structural damage. The 2004 HAZUS report, prepared by FEMA, based on a 7.7 earthquake occurring in the New Madrid seismic zone, estimates earthquakes damage to be $297 billion across the region and nearly 370,000 people displaced from their homes. In Missouri, the report estimates a direct economic loss of $69 billion and nearly 87,000 buildings damaged. Please keep in mind that those projects are for an earthquake of magnitude 7.6 or 7.7. Many of us are expecting an earthquake that is far, far larger to eventually hit the region. In recent months, a couple of major drills have been held in the New Madrid seismic zone as local officials attempt to prepare the population for what is inevitably coming. On Thursday, October 17, thousands of people participated in an earthquake preparedness exercise called the Great Shakeout and practiced survival skills. There's only so much officials can do to prepare because they know we can't prevent earthquakes. All we can do is be ready. This summer, officials held preparation drills across Missouri. Energy responders practiced when buildings might collapse and how to save as many people as possible. Firefighters and first responders held a drill at Chesterfield Mall in the St. Louis area in July, where they simulated search and rescue missions. The 3-day drill scenario simulated an 8.4 magnitude earthquake along the New Madrid seismic fault and involved 500 people, including local emergency responders, military responders, hospitals, and volunteers. I think that those drills are great, but the truth is that nothing can really prepare people for the real thing. The USGS says that in addition to 1811, 1812, the region was also hit by a huge quake in approximately 900 and 450 AD. Paleoseismic geologic studies conducted over the last 20 years have shown that sequences of earthquakes of comparable size to that in 1811, 1812 have occurred at least twice before in approximately 900 AD and 1450 AD. We live at a time when our planet is becoming increasingly unstable, and scientists openly acknowledge that there's nothing they can do to prevent the next great New Madrid earthquake. Unfortunately, this time around, the entire region is littered with nuclear power plants there. In fact, there are 11 nuclear reactors in the state of Illinois alone. Illinois generates more electricity from nuclear energy than any other state, accounting for 1/8 of the nation's total nuclear power generation. In 2023, the state's 6 nuclear power plants, with 11 total reactors, produced 54% of the state's electricity net generation. Do you remember the Fukushima nuclear disaster? Well, when the next great New Madrid earthquake finally arrives, we could have a whole bunch of nuclear reactors melting down simultaneously. There's a very deep geological scar directly under the New Madrid seismic zone. In my books, I already describe what will happen when the deep geological scar blows wide open. The North American continent will literally be ripped in half, and life in this country will never be the same again. It won't happen tomorrow, but such a disaster is inevitably going to happen. And when that day finally arrives, nobody will be able to say that there was no warnings. Michael Snyder reports on End of the American Dream. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. This is by Michael Snyder and about the author. Michael Snyder's new book entitled Why is available on paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 8 other books that are available on Amazon, including Chaos, End Times, 70 Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work that he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News, and he's always freely and happily allowed others to republish those articles on their own websites. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.